Greetings, everybody. Hello. Welcome. So nice to see so many people in the audience. This is always a special day for us every year. I'm Dr. Barth Wright. I'm the chair of anatomy here on the Kansas City campus. My compatriot and counterpart, Dr. Phil Brower, who is the chair of anatomy in Joplin, has joined us today too from Joplin. So welcome to him as well. I'd like to start off by thanking Ms. Felicia Harris for all that she does for the Gift Body program in terms of coordinating the program. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I know she does as well. And also for all she does setting up the memorial service. So appreciation there. Also great appreciation to Mr. Cameron Shank, who joined us this year. He's responsible for taking care of your loved ones while they're with us here in lab. So he oversees our lab and oversees our donors while they're on the facility. So thanks to Cameron Shank as well. So as I said, this is a very special day. This is an opportunity for us annually to thank our donors and thank their families and thank their friends for the gift that they've provided to our institution and to the training of future physicians. I know, as you've seen with the number of the statements that are up here, our students find a degree of gratitude that they don't always recognize when they come in. So certainly thanks to you all and thanks to your loved ones as well. So without further ado, and I will come back to introduce our final speaker, but I'd like to introduce Dr. Darren D'Agostino, who's the Executive Dean for Kansas City University.
Okay. Well, thank you all for being here. I just wanted to take a couple of minutes to give you some information about this program and how it directly affects our students and what we do. So this school started in 1916, and it was that year that we actually connected with the Jackson County branch of the Anatomic Board of the state of Missouri. And since that time, we have represented on that board a member from this faculty in one way or another. And I believe it's been the last 5 years we've had the president of that board has been one of our faculty members in the anatomy department. In 1917, our records show that we had 4 gifts from people like you. In 2017, we had 55. In 2018, we had 78. We average 65 gifts a year. And we could not make our students that are sitting around you the great physicians that they become without your loved ones and without your gifts. And I wanted to thank you very much for being here today, and thank you for the generosity that your family has given us. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dr. Mike Johnston. I have the privilege of serving as the campus dean for the College of Osteopathic Medicine. And I wanted to extend a special thanks for the participation of the families, the friends, and this is a memorial service not only for the donors, but it's also in recognition and appreciation for what the families and the friends have done for this university. As you all know, anatomy is a critical component in the honing of a physician's skills. And with this great opportunity, through your honorable decision of allowing the donation, this is the best opportunity for our students to learn those skills, which is essential in the practicing in the art of medicine. We are very blessed to have this program in existence. Without your contribution and dedication to this program, we would not be able to offer what we do in the curriculum. So I'm going to keep my comments very short and to extend a very heartfelt thank you for your contribution, for the legacy that will always live in the life of a donor. Thank you. It's my privilege to introduce your president of the class. I'll advance the title, Dr. Krieger.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Paul Krager, and like Dr. Johnston said, I've been given the opportunity to represent the class of 2022 as their class president. So as I reflected over the past year and how it has impacted our education as future physicians, I kept coming back to how profound of an impact my donor had on me as a medical student and a person. Through your loved one's gifts, my classmates and I were given an unfathomable amount of knowledge, but moreover, we're given an experience unlike any other that has taught us how to provide compassionate care to everyone. Our anatomy lab has a plaque on the wall that I noticed on my orientation, actually, and it said, "Hic locus est ubi mors gaudet susurrere vitae." And yes, that's Latin, but it translates to, "This is the place where death delights to help the living." And as I was procrastinating my studies, like a good medical student, I decided to Google that and see what it actually meant. And when I came about that, I realized how truly profound and real it actually was. When we were down in the anatomy lab, there was smiles constantly. It was tough, but we continued to smile. We learned. We were able to gain an incredible amount of knowledge. And through the gift that was given by the donors, it just impacted every single one of the students in this class's lives like nothing else could. Every single one of us are better people because of the gift that we were given, because of the knowledge that we learned, and it will truly affect every single patient that we treat in the future. Finally, I just want to reiterate my thanks to both the donors and their families from the entire class of 2022 and KCU as a whole. We are indebted to your loved ones for their selfless gift, and I know that we will all be better physicians for it. Thank you. And now I'm going to send it down to Joplin to hear from their president, Comfort.
Okay. Hello, everyone down here in Joplin and over there up in Kansas City. My name is Comfort Orabayo, and I am privileged to be up here today speaking on behalf of the KCU Joplin campus, class of 2022. I remember the first day in anatomy lab. Like many of my classmates, I was excited, nervous, but really anxiety-driven. I was excited that I was about to learn about the human body, but also nervous that in some way, shape, or form, I was gonna screw something up. Coming into medical school, I've always known that anatomy was the foundational knowledge of medicine. But one thing that I didn't know, and one of the most valuable lessons that I have come to learn in the anatomy lab experience is the appreciation for human variability, vulnerability, and strength. It was Ralph Emerson that once said, "The purpose of life is not to be happy, but to be useful, honorable, compassionate, and to make a difference in the life of others." Throughout this past year, I've seen how much our class has come to admire the gift that has been given to us by our donors. We've all seen what a valuable experience this has been and appreciate that it was made possible because someone you knew, your family, your friend, your loved one chose to donate their body to medicine. Without this special and compassionate people, it would be nearly impossible for tomorrow's healthcare leaders to get the education that they need. They've not only blessed our lives as medical students, but they have also blessed the lives of the millions of people that we will call our patients throughout our career. It was Israel Moore, a viewer, that said, "What people see you do may not be remembered. What people hear you say may be forgotten, but how they intervene in your time of need will forever be remembered." In that way, I say to you today, we might not I've been able to hear or seen any of your loved ones. But in our time of need and our time to learn, they imparted a confidence and education in us that will forever remain in our hearts. And so on behalf of KCU class of 2022, I want to say thank you.
the tides are calm and gentle, when the sea is mist and foam, then I think of you with love so true. I am coming home. Coming home to see you again. Coming home to you. With the stars as my guide, I'll be there at your side. I am coming home. I have traveled sea and mountain, distant pathways I did roam. Now it's time, my friend, for journey's end. I am coming home.
Well, for our penultimate speaker, I'd like to introduce someone who's really become a cornerstone of these memorial services for us. His name is Mr. Jim Mitchell, and he has some interesting tales and entertaining tales to tell. So,
Thank you.
Jim.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to talk for a few moments before I say anything. Reference is constantly made to the number of years that I've been coming here, and it's a reminder to me that we're going to have to make a change. Either we're going to have to get a different speaker, or we're going to have to rename it Roadside Auction. I know a thing or two about aging. I got a call recently from my college roommate telling me that he had lost my phone number. I had the same question. He said, "I'll tell you what, Mitch, let me get a pencil and paper and write it down. If I lose the paper, I'll just give you another call." And I said, "Fair enough, fair enough." Now, I probably shouldn't be, but I'm nervous. I think it goes back to a remark that was made about my public speaking about 60 years ago. I was minister of a small church, and I got a call one Sunday afternoon from a member of the congregation asking me for a copy of the sermon. Now, that was rare because most people didn't even want to hear it the first time, much less the second. But I learned that she had missed church that morning because of a sick child. But she said, "My husband came home just raving about the wonderful sermon you preached." Then she paused and said, "Wouldn't you just know it, I have to miss on the day when you do a good job." I go to a fitness center 3 or 4 times a week. And the time that I go, I run into a lot of people about my age. And when we start talking, the conversation very quickly turns into an organ recital. Either that, or they start telling me about their grandchildren. If there's anything I hate to listen to, it's boring stories about somebody else's grandchildren when I want to talk about my own. But he and I were on parallel stationary bicycles. Now that's a scene. You don't get much scenery. 2 guys riding together in a fitness center, talking occasionally, but he turned to me and he said, "How old are you?" I said, "I'm 86. He said, "I'm 84. Then he said, a very probing question, "Would you do it all over again?" I took that to mean, would you want to live your life again? So I said, "In a heartbeat." There was a long pause, and then he said, "I would not." I would not want to live life over again. I could not get that incident out of my mind for the rest of the day. I thought, talk about winning the lottery, and he doesn't want to live it over again. And then I compare that to the spirit that I find here. 84 people who have donated their bodies. That's 84 people who are betting on the future, who believe that some things outlive us and doing certain things will help others along the way that we will never see nor know. So I want to start by telling the class here at this school to commend you for going into medicine. I'm not suggesting that your profession will be any more important than anybody else's, but truth be told, there are not many places where you could go where you could affect the quality of so many lives in so many ways as you could in the practice of medicine. And I have a personal stake in this. I was cruising along as a young whippersnapper of 72 years old and did not have a doctor. Now that tells you two things about me, that I was very lucky and that I was very foolish. Thankfully, a woman doctor in our church said, "Jim, you need to get a checkup." So I went for the checkup, and as she suggested, it was a necessary trip. I was in the early stages of colon cancer. So surgery was planned, and I met with the surgeon on a specific date, and he was a man of few words, get right to the point. He said, "Sir, you'll be arriving here on such and such a date. You'll be here at 7 o'clock in the morning. At 7:45, you'll be wheeled into the surgery room, and the surgery will last about 45 minutes. You'll be wheeled back to a recovery room, and then after the day there, you'll be sent to another room where you'll spend 3 or 4 days, and after that, you'll be released, and in a month, you'll be back to normal. Do you have any questions?" Well, the most intelligent one I could think was this one. "Were you in class on the day when they talked about this particular process?" He didn't think it was funny either. He said, "Mister, I've done more than 1,000 like this, and that was good enough for me." The day came and I went to surgery, and he had it all planned out, and he was accurate. And the next morning after surgery, he came bouncing into the room and said, "Good morning." So I knew his speech was about half over. Then he said 3 short words that I'll never forget as long as I live. He said, "We got it." That's all I needed to hear. So I stand here today literally because one young man decided, as some of you have decided, to be a surgeon and change people's lives. But I want to tell another story that comes a little closer to home. I'm dealing with the early stages of Parkinson's, not so early, but I'm dealing with Parkinson's, and I went to my doctor not long ago. I said, "I need to plan a strategy. I just can't bounce along and resolve to do what accidentally happens in my life. I need to do something special to deal with it." He said, "I'm going to suggest a neurologist." He said, "She comes highly recommended." Well, let me tell you, it's pretty important to me that she's a graduate of this school. Her professor is sitting right over here. How cool is that? So today, my life is not only being touched by being with you people, it's being touched by products of this institution, and my goodness, you've only hardly begun. Well, maybe I better check my notes. I might be finished. I want to say a word to the families. I've seen a number of the pictures up here, the comments that the young men made, and it tells me that from what the young students have said about your loved ones is that this is truly a sacred event. I was not the first speaker to be specified on when this program was begun. I got a call one day from this school, and they asked if I would speak at this event. It was because my minister had been scheduled to speak and he had to be out of town at the last minute, and they asked me. Now, I'm embarrassed to tell you I should have said no because I knew nothing about it, but I'm not that humble. So I decided to go ahead and take it up, and the longer I waited, the longer I realized that I should have said no, but it was too late. I called a member of our church who's a neurologist and said, "Bud, what can I do?" He said, "Oh, you'll think of something, Jim." I said, "That's what I'm afraid of." And after kidding me a while, he said what the students said on this board here. He said, "I am a better doctor today because I went to an institution that had the donor program." I said, "Why is that? Why are you better?" He said, "Some things cannot be learned by a PowerPoint presentation or by rumor. It has to be learned by hands-on, and that's what this is." Then I was going down the road in Kansas City one day, thinking that I had not said enough about what this program was, and they said, I was listening to NPR, and they said, Melissa Block, who is still a reporter, is going to come on in the next segment and talk to a doctor about the donor program that she was trained in and the effect that it had on her life. And I thought, my goodness, right up my alley. I pulled over and got pencil and paper, and let me tell you briefly what she said. The program is more than information about muscle and tone. It's about the human spirit and the will to live. In my practice, my mind goes back again and again to the donor. The program stands out in my mind more than anything else in my preparation. That's what the program is all about. I want to tell you, I've had the chance through the years to talk to a number of families, and I want to share with you a couple of the family stories. I'm sure with 84, I would love to meet with all of you to find out the story of your loved one, because I'm sure it would be interesting. But one woman one time who was this program said, "Let me tell you about my husband. He moved to this country when he was 20 years old from a European country, went to work on a farm and had goals of being a farmer. When he had saved enough money, he sent for me and we got married, and we began a small farming operation. Said we had to work for other people until we could get enough money to buy our own land and get our own machinery. But through the years, they worked together and worked hard and finally developed a workable farm where they could make a reasonable living. After he retired, he contacted a disease that was going to take his life, and he decided to give his body to this school. I asked her, why did he do it? And she said he wanted to pay this country back for the wonderful gesture it gave him as an immigrant to come here and carve out a career and raise a family. The second incident I want to talk to you about is a young woman grew up on a small farm in southern Indiana. When she graduated from high school, she expressed interest in going to college. If she did, she would be the first in her family to go to college. Her father said, no, you don't need to go to school. He said, we can find you a job in a local office and you'll be just fine. She persisted, and so did he. They locked horns, and finally she told her mother, I'm going to have to run away in the middle of the night because Dad is not going to let me go to school, which is what she did, and he woke up the next morning discovering that she was gone. Long story short, she worked at 2 or 3 part-time jobs, paid her own way through school, and graduated with an English major. He was proud of her after she had done this, but not before. She spent 45 years in local high schools as a teacher of English literature and writing. I know a little bit about this case because it was my wife of 55 years. And I learned something from this experience. I'm old enough to have been involved in scores of memorial services in my life, some dear friends, but nothing quite gets your attention like your own family. And I can tell you today that there's something about this program that I need to emphasize just for a moment. That is the importance of grieving. It was said of Abraham Lincoln, he laughed to muffle the beats of a broken heart. Well, let's be honest. There's some broken hearts here today. And I can say to you, work your way through it. We often hear statements like, get over it. No, the answer is not to get over it. The answer is to work through it. And it's okay to honor your loved one with tears. My wife and I went to a European city a few years ago, and this town had the bicycle culture in their town. Almost everybody had a bicycle, but there were a few who didn't. The tour guide told us, she said, you'll notice an occasional white bicycle parked against a post or against a wall. She said that's because of a tradition that was started in this city to help people who could not afford a bicycle. She said, when you need a bicycle, that white one is yours, but you ride across the city and you park it and it becomes someone else's. It belongs to whoever needs it. I think that's the story of the donors. They're through with their body, but they're going to give it to somebody who needs it. And the thing I want to leave you with that's so important, that you be sure that you have grieved sufficiently, because if you do, that will turn to gratitude, because I can promise you that the day will come when the tears will dry and the pain will be alleviated and you'll find gratitude, because this is my everlasting conviction. Sorrow does not have the final word. The final word belongs to love. This will be the final time that I will do this. It has touched me a lot more than it's touched the people that I've been able to talk to. But I can only say this to you. Bless you, and amen.
Thanks so much, Jim. That concludes today's service. We greatly appreciate you joining us today. Families are requested, if they wish, to take a rose as they depart in remembrance of their loved one, and also to please join us out front for some refreshments. And again, thank you for joining us today.